In 1998, the same year that The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill came out, Konami released a game in Japan that would eventually find itself huge all over the world, and may have even found its way into your gym class during the 2000s. It was massive, addictive, and catchy, but most of all, revolutionary. Hi, I'm Kenomina, and I like exploring niche video games and internet things. This is my first video, so I figured I'd revisit a game I played a lot during my childhood. Dance Dance Revolution. It was a rhythm game composed of a floor control with 4 arrows. Very simple, but incredibly fun and intuitive. The modes are beginner, light, standard, and heavy in most of the entries. The only objective was to hit the arrows in a pattern set by the selected song. If successful, the game would shower you in praise, perfect, great, or good. But if you dared miss, it wouldn't hesitate to boo at you. Depending on the score, it would rise or lower the gauge. It automatically starts at the halfway point, but it's easy to quickly climb or drop. If it completely empties, the song cuts off and the crowd goes wild booing at you. At the end of each round, the game gives you a score between SS and failure, depending on the entry. Sometimes the highest score was AA. Nothing ruins your self-esteem more than being totally annihilated by a Captain Jack song, but that's another story. I'm ashamed of my past failures. It was originally an arcade game, but soon found itself into regular homes with the creation of the floor mat, or dance pad, in Japanese homes in 1999 for the PlayStation. Other regions, such as North America, wouldn't have the opportunity until 2001. Not only was it in homes, DDR found its way into schools too. Cited as a good aerobic workout, some schools, in particular popular in West Virginia in 2006, took advantage of DDR's enticing entertainment. Caltech even let DDR fulfill their PE credit. After all, it emphasizes on speed and accuracy of footwork, taught skills in rhythm and coordination. Dance Dance Revolution couldn't lose. There's a lot of entries in this series. Dance Dance Revolution 2nd Mix, 3rd Mix, 4th Mix, Disney's Rave, 5th Mix, DDR Max, DDR Max 2, DDR Extreme, Dance Dance Revolution Supernova, Supernova 2, X, X2, X3, Dance Dance Revolution 2013, Dance Dance Revolution 2014, A20, Dance Dance Revolution Extreme Max. I made that last one up, but you get the point. I'm not sure that's even all of them. Actually, I'm sure that's not all of them. DDR Max, or Dance Dance Revolution 6 Mix, and DDR Max 2, Dance Dance Revolution 7th Mix, are what I know best from my childhood. When I think of DDR, I think of these 2 specific games, so it's what I'm going to talk about. I may dive into more of the other ones in future videos, but this one is definitely dedicated to DDR Max and DDR Max 2. DDR Max was released in arcades and the home for the PlayStation with a total of 71 songs for the North America version in 2002. There's a lot to love about this game, including its colorful design and killer playlist. Some of the highlights, in my opinion, include covers of Ordinary World by Aurora and Let's Groove by Tips and Tricks vs. Wisdom. But also originals like Look Up to the Sky or Kind Lady are pretty cool too. There's a lot to love. I could definitely go on. Also, shout out to AM3P and Cutie Chaser for always being stuck in my head during the most inopportune times. DDR Max 2, or Dance Dance Revolution 7th Mix, was similar in style to its predecessors, with a whopping 135 songs for the arcade release and 74 songs in the Japanese PS2 release, while the North American version had 69 songs in total. It was released in September of 2003, and saw generally positive reviews. Max 2 sold around 750,000 copies to the tune of $28 million in the United States alone. Song highlights, again in my opinion, are Breakdown, Get Down Tonight, Love at First Sight, and Twilight Zone. But I have to mention, fuck Silent Hill, 3rd Christmas Mix. I don't know why, but this song ruined my life. It was incredibly difficult for a 10-year-old to complete, and it made me really mad. And every Christmas, I have to think about this excuse for a holiday tune. I hate it. Thanks, Konami, for a beautiful Christmas song, though. R.I.P. Anyways, I periodically and unironically go back to this playlist on YouTube just to listen. So, what happened? The game series proved to be a runaway success. By 2003, DDR had hit 6.5 million in sales across platforms around the world. Well, a lot of things happened, to be fair, so let's explore that a little bit. Despite its pop culture footprint, there was only so much DDR could accomplish before being outbested by newer games utilizing newer tech. Not only that, according to Polygon, Konami seemed less interested in the American market as arcades were declining in popularity. Even if you wanted to play DDR in a classic arcade, arcades were limited to imported or bootleg versions of the game a lot of the time, making it hard to find a reliable place to go. Sometimes the sensors were totally busted, or the machines were completely unfunctional. This made for a bad experience for many players, essentially pushing them out of the arcade version of DDR. It didn't help that the arcade and home versions of the game were totally different experiences when you take into account the dance pads. There was a gap between the two that turned off players and pushed them towards other alternatives like In the Groove and Step Mania. To be fair, the at-home version of the dance pad sounded like a Rice Krispie treat that's been left out in the sun for 3 days. This lack of consideration of the arcade versions and the rise in competitors made DDR less enticing. Even with home releases, games like Ubisoft's Just Dance came onto the scene in 2009 and provided a better experience. It capitalized on the Nintendo Wii's console in a way that DDR never could. Considering the huge popularity of the Wii during this period and the declining easiness of DDR's availability, it's no wonder how Just Dance surpassed its competitor and took over the #1 spot for rhythm games. After all, it was far more accessible. You didn't need to buy an extra controller, like a dance pad, just to play. Just load up your Wii and you're ready to go. After all, Konami never quite evolved DDR to keep up with the technology times. Once it perfected its own equation, it never attempted to revitalize or revisit its techniques. While I think the game is perfect the way it is, it wouldn't necessarily be able to capture new audiences or keep old ones. DDR walked just so Just Dance could run. That's not to say that DDR is no longer around. According to Kotaku's 2019 article, DDR championships are still alive and garnering support and experienced players year after year. DDR mania, thanks thegamer.com for that term, may be over, but that doesn't mean that it's completely eradicated. This gives me hope that maybe one day we'll get another Dance Dance Revolution comeback. It probably won't look the same, but it's the feeling that DDR provided that I miss the most. It was a great game with an amazing playlist. I can thank this game for a countless number of happy memories. Do you remember Dance Dance Revolution? Do you miss it? I'm Phenomena, and I like exploring niche video games and internet things. Sorry if this video was short, but I'm still learning editing and scripting. Thanks for watching. You can find me at Phenomenal on Twitter.